In Connection 3, I developed 7 lessons for the classroom. The first lesson is called Entering the Powwow Arena. The second lesson is the drum singing styles and songs. The third lesson is Becoming a Dancer. The fourth lesson is the audience as participants. Lesson 5 is on honoring the ancestors. Lesson 6 is respecting the earth. Lesson 7 is bringing it all together for one world. Each part of the lessons that were developed are for teachers who are introducing the topics of American Indian singing and dancing to students who may not be familiar with this topic at all. It was developed in a way as a beginning, as an introduction to the students about what happens when we enter a powwow circle, for example. Why is there singing happening? Why are all the dancers dancing in a certain way? There are several categories of dance represented in a powwow. Also, what I would like to point out for the teachers are that there are any number of dances. We have powwows which include, everyone. Anyone who comes to a powwow will be included in that circle, whether they're audience or wherever they're at within that circle. What I've noticed about powwows are that even people who may be out in the community, maybe several blocks away, or who may be miles away, if they're living on a reservation, they might be way out in the country, but they can hear the drums in town where the powwow is taking place. So they still feel that they are connected to what's happening there in town, to the powwow. They still feel that they are part of that activity, that event. The purpose for this guide is also to help anyone who's who wants to learn about American Indian singing and dancing, to help them to understand that in performing arts, for example, in the theater, you will have a stage, you will have performances that are taking place on the stage, whether it's ballet, whether it's opera, whether it's a play. But what's happening on the stage is separate from the audience. So there's two things that are happening. You have the audience who are watching the performance and the performers. Now, with American Indian singing and dancing, we don't have a stage, so to speak. We have our tribal circles, the powwow arena, which is what is, again, inclusive of everyone. There's no separation between the audience and the dancers. And if you would ask any of the dancers or the singers, if they saw themselves as performing artists, they would say no. This is so much a part of who we are as Native people. It's not something separate from us. So within the tribal circle or powwow arena, you will be included. Anyone who comes and attends a powwow will be included in that circle, because at any moment when they have intertribal dances, this is the opportunity that is given to the audience to come out and dance with everyone. And at that point, anyone can come out and dance. So singing and dancing as artistic expression and cultural interaction is what each of us do as singers or dancers. And as I said before, many of us would not regard ourselves as artists or performers like opera singers or ballet dancers. However, given that, we also do have Native American dance troupes in the United States and in Canada. And such an example is Kevin Locke with the Native Dance Ensemble. And they perform throughout the year and travel all over the world, performing all of these dances. There's also the Many Moccasins Dance Troupe, which is located here in Nebraska, in Winnebago, Nebraska, and they have performers of multiple ages, and they travel extensively as well. They perform at schools, colleges, conferences, fairs, and powwows. So as each generation produces singers and dancers, there are also composers. There are any number of dance moves that can be introduced within a category of dance. That even so, we might have a certain kind of dance that any dancer who is within that, dance, for example, like a men's traditional dancer, they might have a new move that they will introduce within that category itself. Also, with all the composers that are out there who are singing, many of them create new songs that will be introduced within the tribe, but also that will also be introduced throughout the country. So what they'll be known as the composer of that particular song, but also that song may be sung by other drum groups, other singers, and will be sung at other powwows throughout the United States and throughout Canada. Now, in these modifications, this is part of that artistic expression, that cultural interaction, again, is sharing that expression. And again, the audience has the dual role of being a participant, but as well as being an observer. This is one way that teachers can begin to understand how American Indian singing and dancing takes place and why we dance. Originally, we danced in ceremony. A lot of this was spiritual related until we took our dances and our ceremonies underground for a number of years until we were able to practice openly once again. We were probably the only group in the United States that was not allowed religious freedom up until 1978, when we had the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. And once that was passed and Congress again said it was legal for us to practice many of our ceremonies, we've seen a rebirth of many of our spiritual traditions come back. And as we're doing this, as this became possible for us as Native people, then we were able also to, bring some of those dances back within the powwow system as well. The inspiration for this guidebook came from Kevin Locke's curriculum. The drum is the thunder and the flute is the wind. The concept behind that is a division of one world. And this concept, this vision, as Kevin has stated, is only through a greater knowing can we live together in harmony, accepting and celebrating what makes us one as well as what makes us unique. This is what is provided in this guide as well, and is outlined in 4 lessons that are shown within this guidebook. Under the drum is the thunder and the flute is the wind. The one world vision that Kevin Locke has created within his curriculum, which I'd like to close with this message about the one world. That concept also ties in with our tribal concept, our Native concept of what we say, we are all related. That is demonstrated within our tribal circle. It's shown in our dances. It's shown in many of our ceremonies. Our teachings are also about we are all related. Many times you will hear many speakers when they address relatives within a community, they will begin with that statement of saying we are all related. Or more specifically, they will say all my relations. And once they begin a speech that way, once they begin a speech that way, and they give their traditions, their teachings, they also finish with that statement, all my relations. So it's at the beginning and the end of any of our speeches, any prayers that are said, and even in songs. So in that, what I'd like to leave as a message for everyone, this is a message of hope that the teachers, the students that are going to be learning this curriculum will also begin to see how they are connected with everyone in the world, connected with all our teachings that we have within the Native culture. Thank you. Weeblaha.